Hey everybody, welcome back. It's Kev from Kev's Hobby Showcase. You may have also seen me on Tabletop Jones Productions, where John and I are the two idiots playing board games. And today, well, second week of the month, and it's comic book time. So today I wanted to talk about, not Marvel Comics for a change. Years ago, a long time ago actually, they Valiant Comics kind of rebooted everything. I'm pretty sure it was a reboot. I never did actually get to read their original stuff from back in like I think the 80s or 90s. I forget exactly when they did it back then. But when they came back out, I was able to. So I do have some favorites, and I'm going to discuss them today. All right. So for those of you who have ever read Valiant Comics, sit tight. I'm going to give you my very brief take on each book, because what I want is for you to check it out yourself. All right. So here we go. All right, so first up, we have the book Harbinger. Its main character is Peter Stanzik, who it's a comic where everybody has some type of mental ability that the main character, Peter Stanzik, actually helps to activate. It's where you got the character Faith, who also called herself Zephyr. Probably the only time you ever saw a female hero who was heavyset. They also had a couple other characters, which unfortunately I don't remember their names, but I didn't really have time to reread everything in time for this video. But it also basically their main adversary was a man named Harada. He was basically head of this whole movement where he would basically collect and train all these people with these mental abilities, and it was a very wide range of abilities. Like some people had flight, some people had just straight up telepathic abilities, some people telekinetic, some people were like pyrokinetic, where they could just create fire. There was like a whole different array of powers that they were able to do, and I always liked it, and they had a series called Harbinger Wars, where basically they went up against some another like a government faction who is connected to a character that I'll mention later in this video. And it was, I mean, for me, this was one of the better books, and I really enjoyed it. Unfortunately, it did end, and the characters were kind of put on the wayside for a bit, and some of them they actually did kill off. So the book Harbinger from Valiant Comics, it's one that I believe is worth checking out if you ever get the chance. Unfortunately, I did lose my affiliation status with Amazon because nobody was actually using it. So I won't have links up in the description, but all you gotta do is check out your local comic shop. Go on Amazon. You actually will be able to find it. Okay, so next we have the Eternal Warrior, and this character is basically brothers with two other characters that are involved in other books, one of which I will be actually probably talking about next. So Gilad Anipata was, basically, warrior from, excuse me, from like thousands of years ago, and every time he dies, it's like he goes to this little afterlife way station where he spends time with his family, and then winds up coming back over and over and over again. And I found it very interesting because eventually they did have him part of a team, which, I mean, I didn't list it as one of the books, although I probably should have, a team called Unity. And so it was, probably one of the major teams that they had, actually the major team that they had in Valiant Comics, excuse me, that was put together from characters from, other books. And the Eternal Warrior was basically, like I said, one that I enjoyed quite a bit. And like I said, I mean, so I guess you could say he's kind of like an immortal, but he can still die, but he always comes back. It's one of the one of the stranger types of stories that I've ever read, but again, very enjoyable. Okay, up next is Archer and Armstrong. You got excuse me, Archer, who is like a product of a severe right-wing upbringing where everything is kind of like related to religion with the gospel and all that. And you got Armstrong, who is an immortal, brother of the guy who's the Eternal Warrior, and very much a drunkard. There's like several times in the comics where they would show basically Archer bringing him away from like some type of bar fight or something where he's totally plastered and and causing havoc. But the two of them together, they made a good team. I mean, they had it's like with a lot of Valiant titles, they did start the series over and over again. I mean, they not that they started it like where they rebooted it, but they just like kind of continued it, but in a new series, which is what Valiant did for quite a while. I think they're still making comics, but when the pandemic happened, I kind of lost touch with it, and it seemed like every time I went to go look to see if they were putting out new books, they hardly ever were, and then I just stopped looking eventually. But Archer and Armstrong was one that I always liked to go to. Excuse me, and like I said, you can look them up online, look them up in the comic shops. I'm sure you can find these books. Very good reads, and also very entertaining, and at times pretty damn funny with these two, especially. Yeah, it was a lot of times very comical, especially with the way Archer deals with Armstrong's drunkenness a lot of the times. All right, so Archer and Armstrong, check it out. All right, up next is the character Ninjak. Ninjak is of course like ninja, and you find out he's part of like he's British, and you find out that he's part of like a British program or just a program where there was like he was like one in a line of ninjas, and they basically made it eighth. Like they did it by the alphabet, and he just happened to be K, so that's why they called him Ninjak. I mean, I don't know if that was their original intention, but that's what they eventually wound up doing, where he basically was coming up against the ninjas before him. And I think there was one that was like I think he said you going after Ninja J, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that doesn't sound too weird now, does it? So, but anyway, it's a character. Like I said, he's a British, comes from a wealthy upbringing, has all types of training, all types of fighting skills, and also was part of that Unity squad that I was telling you about just before. And it's again another good read. He does interact with a lot of the other characters for a while before he had gotten his own book. I think when they first brought it, well, I mean, I don't know how it was in the previous versions of Valiant, but when they restarted it, he actually, I think he started in the book Exo Manowar, which I will talk about later. And from there, eventually, I mean, it's like of course, the popularity. I guess people just remembered either it's probably like the older fans remembered how much they liked him, and then of course the newer fans realized what a cool character he was and wound up getting his own book. So Ninjak is another one. I would definitely check it out. Okay, up next, Bloodshot. Now Bloodshot, I really liked that book a lot. Basically, Bloodshot was a soldier who was put through experiments that kind of like resurrected him after he had passed, and it's like basically a character where you see him take all types of punishment, his body gets totally destroyed, but through nanotechnology is like always like gets kind of like knit back together. Now also, Bloodshot was made into a movie, which was actually supposed to be the start of Valiant's own their own cinematic universe. But unfortunately, the timing was terrible because when it was coming out was when the pandemic happened and everything was locked down. Nobody, theaters were not open, so it went instead of waiting, they went straight to streaming, and I don't think it did very well with the streaming. I actually saw the movie. I did like it. I did enjoy it. Did it follow the comic exactly? No, it didn't. But I still felt like it was a good start. It probably could have been a good start for their own cinematic universe. I believe Exo Manowar was supposed to be next, but they never made it. At least as far as I know, they never made it. And so Bloodshot is a good book, and the movie was played by Vin Diesel. I felt he did a good job, and I actually felt bad for him because it's like I felt he did a good job, and it's like, this is a movie that was supposed to start something big, and he kind of like missed out on it. So yes, but there's a lot of different series for Bloodshot. Definitely check that out. And the character does evolve quite a bit as the series goes on, and you even see previous versions of what he was supposed to be, and it gets pretty interesting once they start introducing those characters. So yeah, definitely check out Bloodshot. Now the last one I'm going to talk about is the book Exo Manowar. I've mentioned it a few times already. Exo Manowar is a man from basically I think it was like the 600s or the 500s, where he was basically he was his home country was taken over by the Roman Empire. He's made into a slave, and then abducted by aliens. Which then, I mean, he's up on the ship and winds up basically coming across the armor that is basically called the exo armor, and it bonds with him. It's like an armor that was kind of like alive, and it bonds with him, comes back to Earth, but like hundreds of years later, and of course now his country is gone. You know, it's like it's like a totally different country now, and it's so now he's like trying to basically figure out everything that's going because now it's in like present day, and he's trying to figure it all out, and of course he's still thinking of doing things the way he always did it back in his time, and it's just not gonna of course not gonna work. Now he was also part of that Unity Squad. He does eventually get very involved with certain aspects of the U.S. government and military, and he does wind up becoming like an asset to them. There was the last book I read before everything started kind of being like books were like very long and far between when they were being released. The last one is like he was on a different planet, basically helping them get liberated from like an evil despot, but that was like the last I had read. I mean, they may have restarted the series again. I don't know. Like I said, I haven't really been able to reconnect with Valiant for quite some time, but yeah, that was so Exo Man War is definitely one I would check out. All right, so those are my favorites. As always, I would say anybody who watches this, if you read Valiant Comics and in the past and you have your own favorites that you'd like to talk about, please put it in the chat. The chat is always on. Excuse me, and of course, if you want to talk further about any of the books that I did mention. Again, put it in the chat. I mean, I would love to have a discussion about these things. I mean, that's the whole point of me doing these videos. And, we can basically debate which book is better if you want. I mean, it's up to you. Just keep it civil. All right. So anyway, that's all I got for today. I hope you enjoyed watching this. I hope you, maybe if maybe I inspired you to check out these books, for yourself. And they are very good reads, and I do recommend them. So again, like and subscribe, please. Share this video as much as possible. I am trying to make it to 50 subscribers, and also please go to Tabletop Jones Productions and do the same there, because we're trying to reach 50 subscribers there so we can do live stream games, which we don't know how to do yet, but we want to learn. And so like I said, I hope you enjoyed this. Please take care of yourself, and I will see you again.